Our vision is to prevent youth homelessness and to raise awareness of this social issue by promoting the resources available to help the at-risk youth. We spoke to Barry Hodge, Head of Communications and Fundraising at St Basil's. St Basil's is a youth homelessness charity that works with 16 to 25-year-olds in Birmingham and aims to prevent the risk of youth homelessness.
I would define it as a situation where young people are living in a situation which is not safe. There is the typical kinds of homelessness that we talk about, day in, day out, street homelessness, people who are sleeping rough on the streets. But youth homelessness is an aspect of that, but it's also an aspect of people living in a situation which isn't safe, or in a situation where they can't afford to live because they can't afford the rents that they're being charged and whatever accommodation they're staying in. It's sofa suffering. It is, as I say, that inability to be able to afford to pay rents. So it's a variety of different things.
Business.
The number one factor that contributes to youth homelessness is relationship breakdown. We know about 71% of the cases that come to St Basil's are because of that, but that can mean a variety of different things. That could mean that they've had a falling out with their mum and dad, that can mean the breakup of a relationship. We get a lot of people coming to us at St Basil's who, for example, have perhaps came out to their parents and haven't been accepted by that. We also have a lot of people who come to us at St Basil's because they simply people can't afford to keep them in their houses anymore because the benefits that they were entitled to keep their children up until 18 are no longer there, and they can't afford to have it, which is a heartbreaking decision for a parent to make, but sadly that is the reality that a lot of people in our country, and specifically in the region of the West Midlands, are having to face. But how do you prevent it from getting to that point in the first place? Well, it's support. It's support to parents who perhaps are dealing with young people who perhaps they don't know how to deal with the situations that they're facing. It's about understanding mental health issues. It's about young people having access to things like benefits. In recent times the government's been proposing to cut benefits for 18 to 21-year-olds. Well, the reality is if they do that, what you're going to have, you're going to have a lot more people on the streets because the opinion is that, well, why can't people just go home? Well, the reality for a lot of young people is sadly it's not safe for them to go back to their family home. So what do you do about those young people? You have to be there, you have to be there to support them. One of the things that we provide at St Basil's is life skills. And this seems like such a common sense approach, because it is a common sense approach. Because if someone doesn't have the ability to budget money, or to handle an interview situation, or write a CV, or boil an egg, then they don't have the basic skills that we need to survive in society. So, I can use myself as an example of this. I moved away from my family home when I was 25, so I moved away when I was you could argue I was reasonably older. And I moved to Newcastle. I'm originally from Glasgow, but I moved to Newcastle. And I'll never forget moving to Newcastle when I had this flat. But I realised that in the past, all I'd ever done was, we would call it dig money. I gave my mum dig money, which was essentially my money to keep, so I could pay to contribute towards food. And I would give her like, I don't know, 200 quid a month or something like that. All of a sudden, I was having to pay for my own flat, which was like £500 a month in rent. I was having to pay things like council tax. I was having to pay things like water bills, gas, electricity, house insurance, for my contents. I was having to budget for food, and then I was having to budget for travel expenses. All of a sudden I couldn't just go out and spend all my money, when I got paid on the Friday, and by Monday I was skin again, because I could rely on my family to keep a roof over my head. The truth is that a lot of the young people that come to us don't have a support network. The way in which you have to tackle it, you have to change people's perceptions. By making them realise that this isn't specifically an individual problem. We always focus on the individual story. So little Johnny became homeless at such and such an age. This is what happened to little Johnny. What we don't focus on is what support was in place for little Johnny to stop him from getting to that point. So we have to start realising as a society that this is society's problem. It isn't specifically just an individual's problem. You know, by focusing on the individual, we sort of displace it, as it were. We move it away from ourselves. But in reality, this is something that we can all work together to prevent. And it's about changing perceptions and realising that. It's a tough ask. It probably won't happen in our lifetimes, but the process will hopefully start, and we can start to turn that around. I think that by raising awareness of people's perceptions about what homelessness actually means is fundamental, because by doing that you're developing an understanding of the situation. It becomes more relatable. I mean, in the field that we work in a field that is not very relatable to a lot of people. The way I describe it to people is that we can all relate to cancer. Not many people can relate to what it's like to losing their home. You know, they've never been in that situation. Thankfully, they've never been in that situation. But sadly, many people have been in that situation, are in that situation currently, or are at risk of becoming in that situation. And it's about making people realise that this is not a case of this can happen to you, but this is the impact it has on society. This, you know, things like if you have people, if we go to the far end of homelessness, the stuff that we all see, the street homelessness, what impact does that have on our society? Well, that has an impact on our, you know, people's lives because they may end up committing crimes, so it ends up being a cost to us for the judicial system, all that sort of stuff. The physical well-being of people on the streets, the impact that has on our NHS, mental health services, the impact that has on mental health, the costs to our society are so vast because of this issue. And what I would like to see, and what we would like to see at St Basil's, is people realising just how much of an impact, what it's like when someone ends up at risk of homelessness, or, you know, ends up sadly out on the streets or sofa surfing. What impact does that have on society as a whole? And the reality is, you know, costs it has, absolutely, you know, that's a huge thing. But it's also the fact that we're talking about basic human, you know, rights, needs. You know, this should not be happening in our world. It just shouldn't be happening. Everyone in this planet, you know, should have somewhere safe and secure to call home. How do you minimise youth homelessness? You just have to be there. The way that we deal with it at St Basil's is it's prevention, it's absolute prevention. And when this prevention starts, it starts at day one. A lot of people tend to treat the disease, but what they don't do is they try and prevent it from happening in the first place. Yeah, let's use an example of, you know, a real life example. You're walking down New Street in Birmingham and you see someone sleeping rough in a doorway. What can you do to help that person? Well, what you shouldn't do is give them money in the streets, because that's not going to help, because essentially it's back to that thing about enabling helplessness. Should you give food? Probably not, because again you're enabling helplessness. What you need to do is empower yourself, and empower yourself with knowledge. Knowledge is power. We all know this, it's been said for many centuries, but it is. If you have knowledge of organisations like St Basil's, like Crisis, like Shelter, like Cypher Fireside round the corner from our offices in St Basil's, like Changes, all these great organisations that are working in our region, specifically in the West Midlands, to tackle homelessness.
As you've just heard from Barry, the best thing that you can do to help prevent youth homelessness is to get involved and donate to charities such as St Basil's. Throughout semester 2, we will be running clothes donations and bake sale events throughout Birmingham that you can participate in. There will also be members of staff from St Basil's attending who can answer any of the questions that you may have. You can also contact us at uobyouthhomelessness@hotmail.co.uk.